Well, hello, lovely people. So, this is a Galactic Mayan Astrology report for the 4th of June 2019, and we are moving into a new wave spell. We've only got 3 wave spells left, three 13-day processes left of the current 9-month cycle that we're within. So, we're really in this space of wrapping up what this rebirth of ourselves has been. And the 9-month cycles are they really show us this Ouroboros process, this snake eating its tail, the infinity loop that we're constantly going through. So this time that we spend in the womb, it takes us 9 months ish to grow and to develop to a point where we then burst, and that cycle continues throughout our time here on planet Earth. So like I say, at the moment we've got 3 more wave spells left until we complete this present 9-month birthing cycle. So the 13-day process that we're going into now on the 4th of June is the energy of white wind. So white wind energy is all about breath, it's all about voice, it's all about the throat. And a lot of the time, as human beings on the planet at this time, we've had a huge severance, a huge wound around speaking and communication. And this is really where white wind comes in. So this wave spell process is probably going to take us all into a space where we're being asked to step up with our ability to communicate, with our ability to be honest. And the thing that's been really coming strong at the moment is that it's not about telling people what they want us to hit with, not about telling people what we think they want to hear, but also it's not about the reverse of that too. So essentially, it's about us being able to be really honest without that honesty meaning that we expect it to change another person's behavior without, and vice versa. So this whole thing of clarity of communication, it's interesting that my channel's a little bit fuzzy because that's also another thing that can come through the challenge of this energy and this wave spell process. It's like we know what we want to say and we can feel it really strongly within ourselves, and we kind of rehearse it and we're like, yeah, I'm going to face this, I'm going to do it, and then bam, you find yourself in the situation and you're in front of the person that you wanted to communicate this incredible or challenging thing to, and you tie yourself in knots. That's okay. It's okay for us to be figuring out how we do this communication thing, because we have been led, everybody has been led into this people-pleasing situation. We've had the schooling experiences that have put us into a corner and made us be either bad or good, and for us to be pleasing or rebelling is like the way that we've all been conditioned. So it makes sense that there is a great difficulty when it comes to vulnerability and communication. And the whole bullshit dance is such a comfortable thing, because then the majority of us go into workplaces where we have to be a version of ourselves that isn't the concrete version of ourselves, and therefore this ease in bullshit is something that we're all very well versed in. So when it comes to then wanting to create these conscious relationships and create this truthful expression of who we are, we're constantly bumping up against this conditioning and this really familiar, comfortable response of chatting shit. And the whole thing of the throat, it's such a portal. It's the thing that really permits us to translate our inner being to the external. It's our channel for asking for what we need as well. And that's another thing about this white wind energy. It's not just about the expression, it's also the asking. So if there are things that we need, that we feel like our needs are not being met in some way, being able to communicate that is such a huge thing. So the real theme of this wave spell is going to be about communication, and that means that we're probably going to face challenges, because that's the way that, you know, we work with this energy. It's through going to the shadow of it in order to get to the light of it. And especially when it comes to communication, you know, like I say, we've all had incredible amounts of wounding around communication, you know. And again, if you have followed my videos for a little while, or you know me personally, like, my thing is children and young people, and basically looking at the early childhood conditioning that we receive through schooling and the implications that that have. And you know, historically, in the past, you know, few centuries since the schooling system has been created, we have been silenced. You know, as young people, we are invalid human beings, and then we reach a certain age in which differs from culture to culture, and then we become a valuable human being that has, you know, a right to a voice. But by that time, we've been through this conditioning factory that has essentially stolen that voice from us. And that's something that's pretty universal. Then add any of the additional childhood wounding that the majority of us have experienced, with regard to communication and expressing ourselves, and boom, you've got loads of silenced people. And I think the thing is, you know, that I really noticed within myself when, you know, I've been kind of working with my ability to communicate for a little while, and the crippling, you know, anxiety that I can sometimes feel when I know that I need to say something. And it's almost like a panic attack that can be triggered. That doesn't really happen as much now, but I know that it really, really used to. Like, my heart would start pounding, and I'd just get a bit dizzy, because, you know, that part of me that was like, it's not safe to speak up, it's not safe to say anything, would be trying its best to protect me from a potential additional wound. So there are going to be lots of opportunities in this wave spell for you to meet that energy, you know, that resistance to speaking up, that resistance to being vulnerable. So just be aware of it, you know, be aware of yourself within the interactions that you have over this 13-day process. Be aware, you know, maybe take some time to journal on an evening, or just reflect on the communications that you've had within the day, and the choice points, you know, the choice points which are never ending. So there's no pass on and there's no fail. You know, you're not going to miss the boat. But just really noticing, okay, at that moment, I could have been true to myself, and I could have expressed from my heart, or I could have spoken up about that thing, or I could have said no, or I could have said yes, or I could have said something, but I didn't. And looking at the why you didn't. And sometimes, you know, it's right for us not to say something. Sometimes it is. But it's just really allowing ourselves the opportunity and the space to kind of unravel what it is that prevents us from this communication. Now, the other aspect of white wind is the breath. It's the wind, you know, and the breath is such a powerful thing that we don't think about, because it just happens in the same way that we speak. You know, it's kind of, this stuff falls out of us and we don't really consciously think about what's going on. But when we can consciously communicate from that space of depth, in the same way that we can breathe from that space of depth, you know, deep into our bellies, as opposed to this like stress response breathing that happens here, all of a sudden we're dropping into that deeper, more authentic space within ourselves. So this is also a really, really good wave spell to be exploring and getting a greater connection to your breath, and really, you know, allowing yourself to just, again, notice your default setting. Notice your breath in different situations, and how able you are to fully take in the energy of the environment and fully release the energy of the environment through just noticing what your natural breath is. And then perhaps if you want to go a bit deeper and do some breath work, there's some amazing stuff on YouTube that's free. You know, people are offering like guided breath work sessions, because the only thing about breath work, you know, is that You just need to be brought back to concentrating on your breath. You know, your breath does the magic, your breath does the unlocking of things. But, you know, if we've got all this trauma stored within our bodies, the breath is a really, really amazing way to get into it and release it. You know, in the same way that if you've ever done yoga, you sort of reach that depth within your own body. You hold these different exercises for an extended amount of time, and then all of a sudden this pain and emotional pain begins to surface. So there's a real slowing of energy when we're in the white wind wave spell. And this is the thing, it's like this energy is about presence. It's about really being able to, you know, when we're communicating, when we're breathing, when we're moving, just really allowing ourselves to be there, you know, and to take a breath before we respond, to take a breath before we decide, to just have that moment of pause, that really beautiful, teeny tiny moment of just like, whoa, and then. So I hope that you have a really wonderful wave spell, and, you know, don't worry if you're not firing at full capacity. Nobody's. You know, don't worry if you meet situations and you feel a bit disappointed that you're not yet able to fill in the blank. You know, it's a process. You know, it takes a really long time for us to be sort of working with these different things and unhooking them. You know, it's something that we're going to be doing for the rest of our lives, but also give yourself the opportunity to realize, you know, how amazing it is that you are developing this awareness, even if your behaviour that's operating from loads of conditioning that you've been exposed to, you know, some of it on purpose to try and make you an ideal citizen, others by accident because it's people that have been operating from their wounds and just accidentally splurged all over you. So it's no wonder, you know, that we're not firing on all cylinders yet. Like, it totally makes sense, and we are all in it together. So to really hold that compassionate space, if you're not able to, whatever that is, it's all good, it's all okay, and just really appreciate yourself for that. But also notice what happens. Notice when you go into these people pleasing parts of yourself. Notice what happens when you silence yourself. Notice, and try and understand why, because it is really the key. You know, to know ourselves is the key, and we are the only people that can know ourselves. You know, your teacher, your guru, your master know themselves, which is why they're in a position where they can share their wisdom, because they've taken the time to know themselves. But only you know you. You can't go to someone and be like, I don't understand, because they can pretend that they understand, but the reality is that they don't. You know, they can share things with you, and that's wonderful, but you are the one that knows you. Only you can map your patterns. Only you can love yourself into wholeness. Only you can be in the driving seat of your life, and you only need you. You know, I'm really strongly feeling, now that we're coming out of this 13 years of Red Moon, that it's not about us kind of coming from that space of needing the other elevated being to tell us what to do and how to do it. You know, it's like, yep, we all learn from each other because everyone has been through their stuff, and that's ace, and that's totally as it should be. But don't ever put anybody's worth above your own. You know, don't ever, no matter what anybody has been through, no matter what anybody professes to be now, no matter how wise a person may seem, they are no better than you, because we're all the same, and we've all got different bits that have evolved in different ways, and that's magic, and it's amazing. But at the same time, just really hold on to that understanding that we're going to be really working with for the next 13 years of, you are the wizard, you are the master, you are the divine inner being, you know, because we all are together. So have a wicked wave spell. Wicked means good if you're not from the UK. It's a word that we use. It doesn't mean like good kind of mean, crazy witchy, but not mean. And just be really kind to yourself, be the opposite of that kind of wicked. I'm sending you loads of love, and yes, blessings.